scent and our emotions connected to them are idiosyncratic or specific. And finally, adherence, or stickiness, or staying power. And I found that a lot of scents, they stay with us for some time. A lot of our memories with scents began in early childhood, and they continue throughout our life. So these scents seem to stick with us, and sometimes they intrude upon us, and they don't let us go. They almost demand our attention. We smell something, and we might be evoked, and they might stick around for a few minutes or even a couple hours. They don't go away easily. Now, the sense of smell and aromas and these scent images, they don't exist in isolation, meaning scents are always connected to an object, a person, a place. You can't have just smells on their own. They're usually connected with something. Like, I smell burnt rubber. The smell of burnt rubber is connected to rubber. It's a thing. It's a noun, right? Or we say, like, it smells like freshly cut grass. You know, it smells like something else. So smells always connected to something. So they're not alone. Which is important because when I'm looking at perception, odor perception, I came to see that it's more holistic than analytic. It's more relational and synesthetic, which is the blending of the senses, rather than something that's just linear and one-to-one. So in other words, the sense and the scent images are always situated within a particular context. Okay. So this context is what a geography professor named Douglas Porteous called a smellscape, which is basically an olfactory landscape. So I took his idea and I applied it to the psyche, and I called it the inner smellscape. And so I use inner smellscape to describe the totality within a particular context. So there's a quote from Gaston Bachelard, who's a well-known French philosopher and scientist. He wrote, "A whiff of a perfume, or even the slightest odor, can create an entire environment in the world of imagination." As you alluded to once, this is a very important quote in understanding this idea of this inner smellscape. There's a whole inner world of things going on within a scent image. So these inner smellscapes, it's like a web. That's how I kind of envision it. It's this web of impressions. They might maybe link to objects, people, sense impressions, emotions, memories. It can all be contained within that. Some olfactory researchers call this experience an integrated representation. I'm getting more like the sciencey words, but there's understanding that that's how we tend to experience our psyche, is that there's an integrated representation or a map, and these things are connected. Okay. So then I became interested and concerned with our range of scent experiences, or differences between something that's very pleasurable versus something that's very unpleasant. And I wanted to know the whole range. I wanted to know what makes a scent beautiful and pleasurable, what makes it ugly and disgusting, and everything in between. Both seemed important to the psyche. I didn't want to just focus on pleasant and happy and beautiful smells because we have terrible ones. Ask a PTSD vet coming back from combat, horrible smells. So I looked at both of those. And I discovered that the emotions that we feel when first encountering a new scent is really important in determining whether that scent will be pleasure or not in the future. Our first experience with a scent really kind of encodes it. Doesn't mean it can never be changed, but that's usually what happens. Our first experience with a scent kind of locks it in almost. If we had a really positive scent with something, it's going to stay positive, or vice versa. The emotions that are connected to that odor will be determined how that odor is later perceived and experienced. And the emotions are a really key component. It's just how you felt when you first experienced that smell. I mean, it's likely that all of us had at least one memory from getting sick off a particular food or drink, right? And afterwards, you feel disgust or something similar after encountering that smell again, right? Somebody gets sick off waffles, and they hate waffles. Like, waffles are nice, but they got sick off them. They don't like them. Bummer. Yeah. So, how do we know if a scent image is beautiful? I discovered that oftentimes we gasp. There's like kind of like looking at a beautiful landscape or painting or a person. There's like, so there can be a gasp and joy. You might feel pleasurable sensations in your body. You might feel your heart expand, your chest expand. You might move towards the scent, walking on a street and you smell a flower, something really attractive, and you're like, oh my God, what is that? You walk towards it. Or as James Joyce sometimes wrote, it can put you in a state of aesthetic arrest. You're just like, oh my God, what is that? What was that? Oh my God, I remember back to grandma's house 4 years ago, because it happens like that. So how do we know if a scent image is disgusting? Well, same kind of thing. We feel aversion towards it. We want to move away. We might feel a sense of contraction in our bodies, or even a gagging in the throat. These are the body telling you things gross. It's disgusting. You have an aversion to it right away. Even a cologne or perfume, maybe from like your ex or something that maybe one time you used to like, and now you smell it and you're like, ooh, that's not pleasant. Right? Yeah. You move away from it. So once again, we're into context. So it's not that scents are inherently good or bad. It's the context in which the scents are experienced and the emotions that are connected to them that create our personal relationship to them. So this is a little picture of some tequila and some lime, some salt, some oranges. Maybe you've seen those before. So this is an example. You could have this drink and then go out and have one of the best nights of your life. You remember all the people you were with, what you did, the conversation, and maybe that smell of tequila brings back this experience that was very, very enjoyable. Or you got sick on it and you had a fight with your partner, or you got hit, by a bicycle, or something bad happens, and your association with that scent is not so pleasant. Yeah, that was a fun example. That just came to me. And also I found this out, I think it's pretty much true, but there are no universal aphrodisiacs, and that's partly why, advertisers are still looking for them, but it doesn't work because there's going to be somebody who's like, no, don't like that smell, doesn't do it for me, because they had an experience with it that maybe wasn't so pleasant. So it's very hard to find a universal good smell or a universal bad smell. Even in places like India, they burn bodies, and what we would mostly find kind of disgusting, and some people don't mind it. And I think there's probably some nasty smells that people actually like. It's really interesting. So there's no universal good or bad smells. It's context. The context is really important. I mean, you could take buttered popcorn from the movie theaters, and for a lot of people it might evoke happy memories, but if that smell of buttered popcorn is connected to, let's say, an early childhood experience that was very traumatic or difficult with your parents, or maybe you got sick off buttered popcorn, same kind of thing, you're not going to have the same association to that smell. So the scent images will be beautiful or ugly depending on the context in which it was first experienced. That's the basic idea. Okay, imagination. This is an important component to all this, as the imagination plays a part in both our scent memories and our inner smell states. It's also imagination needed to recall a scent without the actual fragrance present. Can we truly imagine smells like we can something auditory or visual? There's some debate on this. Okay, you can close your eyes and you can picture your best friend or the house you grew up in, but can you do that with a smell? There's really some debate. If you try to recall the smell of a lemon, let's say, are you really recalling the scent? Or are you rather picturing its color and shape, maybe how it makes you feel and what it tastes like, the other components to it? Well, the way I discovered it was regardless, it appears that our imagination is going on all the time anyway. It happens while we're perceiving, imagination happens while we're remembering, as well as fantasizing. So our scent memories are always colored and textured by and through our imagination. As author Lynn Cohen wrote, in attending to the soul's deepest need, the essential question is not so much what I remember, but how I remember it. And that's the imagination doing its work on your experiences. All right, so just kind of sum up everything real quick. An aroma is linked to a particular evocative and emotional experience, which can range from joyful to disgusting. The context of the experience involves specific and personal details, including strong somatic sensations. And our scent experiences coincide with our imagination. This creates a psychic memory or a smellscape that stays with us. Now, how's this all important to us? What's this all about? Can't be done here. Nope, got to go a little bit further. So these questions led me to the direction of reflection, reflecting on these things, our scent images. Okay? So I took this idea from the psychologist Patricia Berry, who just moved to Carpinteria, by the way. Ran into her crush cakes before I went to Switzerland. She's like, I just got back from there. So cool. So she, no, it was like right before I jumped on the Airbus to go to the airport in Switzerland, there's Patricia Berry talking with Joe's wife. You know, crazy. Anyway, so Patricia Berry said that she looked at two types of reflection, both horizontal reflection and vertical reflection. So I took her idea and I kind of tweaked it, you know, just because. And I came up with the idea of zooming in and zooming out. You kind of helped me with that a little bit. So there are two modes of reflection, two ways of kind of looking at our experiences. So zooming in style reflection puts our psychic contents into a particular context. It gives us a wider frame that allows our personal scent images to be seen and understood in relationship to each other and to the external environment. It also lets us see the scent image in a cultural and historical context as well. So this style of reflection engages the intellect a little bit more. For example, you may have a personal scent image of a strawberry, and through zooming out, you can see the scent against the background of, let's say, the fragrance industry or the flavor industry, which has thousands of versions of synthetic strawberry flavor. You might think about your perception of the natural strawberry aroma versus the synthetic and all the business and economic side, and any other member-relevant associations. It puts that into particular wider context. You see it in the cultural and historical sense. So that's a zooming out style of reflection. Whereas zooming in, I looked at as being more intimate and more concerned with specifics. And we notice subtle details and particular qualities of our psychic contents. This style of reflection is more of an embodied experience, I think. All the sensory details of our inner smellscape are given attention. There's more of a sense of tightness and precision. For instance, you smell a certain kind of laundry soap, which maybe takes you back to traveling to Mexico or something, and you can see all the details of who you're with, what they said, maybe what you're wearing, how you felt, all these details of that experience, and you're very keen on the particulars. So that's a zooming in kind of reflection. There's really a whole rich world there. So through this process of reflection, I think we end up knowing ourselves a little bit more deeply. And so that's how I came to experience it. Next, I was interested in personal scent images that are meaningful to the human psyche. The scent memories that stand out from other events in our life. So how do we know which ones are meaningful? I found that one way to tell if a scent's meaningful is to look at how your body responds. You see the connection of the body here, just keeps coming back. Maybe there's a change in your breathing, feeling of an expansion or contraction in your chest. There's a felt sense of fullness maybe. But our body, our soma, tells us oftentimes what's meaningful or not, how we feel. Another way we can tell if something's meaningful is by our emotions. If we inhale an aroma that stimulates a memory, I think that the more strong emotions that we feel, the more weight or value we tend to give it. You know, something's really emotional, it's a sign of value. You care about it. It's important. And then sometimes a scent memory will linger and won't easily fade away. I talked about that earlier. And it might stay with us for a while, maybe several hours even. Think of the common experience of smelling a loved one's clothing when they're absent or even after they've died. And their fragrance triggers comforting images and memories. They're usually pretty emotional. And some of these sense images stay with us for many years, maybe even a lifetime if we're lucky, I think. Talked to a lot of old people, and they still have some scent memories that go back to their childhood. So if we're lucky, they hang out, they stay with us. Those are the ones that I was interested in. Okay. Findings. I'm just going to summarize the last couple main ideas here. So we found that sense can indeed be a psychic image. I found that sense exists within an inner smellscape, where our scent memories and associations intersect with our imagination. I also found that some scent images possess more weight than others, and are therefore more meaningful to an individual. I propose that we know a scent image is meaningful if it's highly emotional, somatically activating, and that carries a sense of fullness and value. Then, we may reflect upon our inner smellscape for the purpose of understanding ourselves more deeply. And what are the implications, the big picture here? This is sort of the, I think Jeanette Paris said, the so what, who cares? Like, yeah, I did all this research, so what? You know, that's an important thing to think about too, just because I can just go off in some direction. And so yeah, here we are, the implications. Another way is like, what's some of the benefits of all this? Like, okay, you did all this research, great. So I found 5, or summarized it down into 5, what I think. Okay, first one. Personal scent images induce a feeling of intimacy and attachment between animals, people, places, and that we know how important intimacy is for both our physical and psychological health. We can't live without some kind of intimacy, whether it's with a person, an animal, with ourselves. Intimacy is vital. 2, some scents give us pleasure, right? Which we need. We need pleasure. So I'd ask you, think about what pleasurable aromas or scent images make you swoon, make you gasp or enchant your heart. Because I'm sure there's probably 1 or 2, hopefully. 3rd, emotional fulfillment, often through nostalgic recollections. And this can actually sustain a sense of meaning in our life. What are the scent memories that have stayed with us? You have a sense of continuity. Remember, your life has been going somewhere. You can look back on something. And that's important.